This is a horror game podcast. It is meant for mature audiences. It may contain adult language, violence, and sexual themes, as well as shocking revelations. Viewer discretion is advised. Greetings, fellow investigators, and welcome back to our video podcast, Into the Darkness, where my friends and I play the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. I'm your host, Thom Raley. The scenario is Alabaster Amphora. It was written by Sean Liddle, who is also our Keeper of Arcane Lore, and this is episode 2. Our recap will be given by Keith Craig as his character, Casey Tomlinson. So, without any further delay, let's continue our journey into the darkness. Keith?
November 1958, cruising down the Nile River. My first vacation in over a decade, going to go see all the artifacts, where they come from, that I've been selling in the store. And then there was a murder, and now I have to answer questions to some Englishman named Horace Langley. I've heard the name, but I'm not much one to read the newspaper and all. Apparently, he was a famous private investigator. Clyde Robinson knew who he was, so apparently he is well known. What's most interesting, a Mr. Lawrence was murdered. I interacted with Mr. Lawrence the night before. He'd wanted me to come evaluate an amphora made out of alabaster. He seemed to imply that it was quite valuable. Of course, that interested me. Unfortunately, I lost Mr. Lawrence's interest when the beautiful Marcia Ingham Smith went walking by. I can't say I blame the man. She caught my eye also. Anyway, we were sat down and in the bar area while Mr. Langley interviewed us all. I already mentioned Clyde. He's an ex-World War II soldier. He comes from Boston. And I'll tell you, he is quite open that he's lived a violent life, but he was in the war. What I thought was curious is that Mr. Lawrence asked him to take a look at the amphora also to evaluate it. Maybe he didn't trust my opinion. Besides Marcia, we also had a Dr. William Goss. He was a physician. Now, he had an interesting story. He said that he saw the Mr. Lawrence on the deck shortly before he was murdered. And he was messing around with a lifeboat, and then he threw something overboard. I'm going to have to go check out that lifeboat. Finally, we had Agatha. If the idle rich are useless, Agatha sums it up the best. She spent more time naming her dog Pompon, Bon Bon, Candy Cane, or something like that. I lost track of how many names she gave it. She fell asleep during the interview. I have to give her credit. I was wanting to escape also, but I unfortunately didn't. After we were all interviewed by Mr. Langley, we kind of broke away from each other. Clyde and Dr. Goss went to go check out the body. From what they said, it's being stored in the freezer next to the food. They said that it looked like he was killed by a single blow to the head that must have had a spike on it. They found a piece of papyrus inside the victim's mouth and it had a symbol on it. Later on, we surmised this is probably a gang symbol because when we showed it to some of the local crew, they were afraid of it, and finally they admitted that it was the symbol of a gang of smugglers. While they were messing around with the body, I went to go check out the lifeboats. I found the one that Mr. Lawrence was messing with. There was a rope hanging loosely into the sea. When I pulled it up, it had obviously been cut. And then when I looked inside the lifeboat, I found the murder weapon. It looks quite valuable. In fact, if I can get it back, it'll probably be even more valuable since it was what killed a famous actor. Agatha and Marcia decided to go check out the victim's cabin. They found his journal. Later on, they read it and they realized that it was documenting his travels around the world and buying various items and all. He said that he bought this amphora for $1,000. Quite the price to pay for an artifact that you don't know the value of. And he thought he was going to sell for 20,000. Well, I mean, that'd be turned into profit. He was never going to get that. Curiously, in the journal, he talked about he was concerned that they were wanting it back. Wonder who they are. Possibly those smugglers? And we heard a scream and raced down to the crew quarters, where we found a crew member. He was injured from an attack last night, and his uniform was missing. We concluded that this was probably the murderer that took the man's uniform and it was wandering around. The game is afoot. Hopefully, I can find this amphora and turn a healthy profit on this journey.
Thanks, Keith. Excellent. So where we left off, I do believe it was Clyde. Was it Clyde and Marcia that were in the basement, or or in the basement?
Yes.
Basement of the ship basement.
Right.
And the man.
Yeah.
The
And the
guy just
man. Yeah. So you were looking in the storage area, and unseen to you from somewhere farther back, perhaps another room, a thin, scantily dressed, like he wasn't like a t-shirt and shorts man came bursting out, young man, pushed past you, knocked you aside. You couldn't see where he came from really. Ran up the stairs and he ran outside. To everyone else who's on the deck,
Stop him. Yeah.
you're yelling. You're like, whoa, stop him, stop him. He bursts through the doorway to the main deck, to the outside deck, to the side. And here's what the rest of you see. I'm assuming at this point you've all made your way into the vicinity, or you're outside. This man comes bursting out from where you saw Clyde and Marcia go down in before. Bursts out. On his back, tight to his back, is a haversack, or like a duffel bag, a modern duffel bag, leather in shape. Something is in it. You can't see, of course, but it looks rather heavy. It's swinging as he runs. He runs to the edge of the ship, side to side quickly. Everyone's sort of surprised by this, so there's no action immediately. First thing that happens is on the deck, you can see the doctor is escorting the young man, the porter who had been injured the night before, and he's got a bandage on his head, and he points at this fellow, and he yells something incomprehensible. Clyde is not up there to hear what he's saying. Yells something incomprehensible to the rest of you because you don't speak Arabic. And the man with the haversack leaps over the edge of the ship's railing. Now, Casey, who's close by? Say Dr. Goss and Casey. I would say you two. Could you each do a spot hidden would probably be reasonable in this case.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Oh,
No.
I have a hard success.
I have a 95. Fail.
Okay. Casey, you're too taken up by what's happening. Like you're looking around, watching everybody else around, all the commotion. And the one thing, Casey, I will give you this. What you do notice is away from all of this commotion, there's people boarding the ship on the other side. In behind you, the other side of the ship, a small boat has come up alongside, and there's policemen coming. I mean, you were waiting for them. They're arriving now.
Mm-hmm.
So the policemen are boarding the ship. They hear the commotion. They're watching as well. They're surprised. However, Dr. Goss, what you see is you notice, it could have been a psychology role perhaps, but I'm giving you this. You notice the look in the eyes of this person, this young person who's running. He is not frightened. He does not look happy or angry or sad. It's very blank face, but he's very determined. And he looks rather manic, like his eyes are just wide in that something's driving him to do this, and his mind is like just determined. Leaps over the side, and as you watch, he's swimming away from the boat, the ship, towards shore. At this point, the river is narrowed a bit, but you're closer to one shore than the other. I would say you're closer to the west shore. And there's a lot of reeds. There's a lot of mats of reeds and marshland off to the side a bit. And the police run to the edge, and the captain runs to the edge, and everybody's yelling, and they're grabbing life preserver, the rings, the safety rings, whatever you want to call them, life savers, tied to ropes and some hooks. And he's swimming, but as he's in the water, he's struggling because the thing on his back is now swung forward and is weighing him down. So he's not swimming well. He's sort of being weighed down by it. And they're yelling to him in Arabic. By now, Clyde, you can hear, I'm sure you're coming up the stairs or you're close to it. You can hear they're yelling, grab the ring, grab the ring. They're just yelling things to him to try to get him to come back. But before any of that can happen, you see movement. And the movement comes from the direction of the shore. And a large serpentine-like thing with a tail moving through the water dives down. Its tail flops. It goes down in the water. And seconds later, you see more thrashing, and the man just goes, boom.
Oh my!
And then you see him up again, and you see him spinning. The crocodile is rolling with him in his teeth, and boom, and he's gone.
Stop the ship! Probably not moving that.
Captain yells the same thing. Captain yells, "Stop, stop!" And you hear the ding, ding, whatever they. I don't know if they do it on small ships like that, but I mean the sound of the engines cutting out and ship starting to slow in the water. Waves.
I'm going to pull out my gun and try to shoot at the alligator, the crocodile.
Oh my God!
What?
Okay, you
pretending
can do that.
to try to save the boy, but. I was about to shoot at the boy anyway, so
you wanted an excuse. It's just
yeah.
And the police see you do that, and they pull out their revolvers as well. They have like World War II vintage British Army revolvers with the rope that goes around the wrist and the barrel that breaks instead of like a speed loader kind of thing. Not a modern revolver. And they're firing as well. Everybody's firing at the crocodiles in the direction. It does surface again a little bit, and you swear you hit it. And their bullets are hitting the water in the general vicinity of it too. Like these are, it's not that far away, but you don't see anything more. And this is a long crocodile. This is like for not crocodiles are large. This is a fairly large one.
25 feet.
It's done under the water, and it seems to tail swooshes and pushes it in the general vicinity of the marsh area.
Well, if it killed that kid,
yeah,
it's most likely that backpack, if that had the M4, it probably sunk straight to the bottom.
Well, depending on how silty it is right here, it might be nearly impossible to find, even if there wasn't an enormous dinosaur.
Could we trawl for it?
It's only about 20 feet deep.
Small boat and trawl for it. Grab a net.
Well, the police and the captain are talking as well. They hear what you're saying, and same with the private investigator. They immediately. They call to the other police, and they have the fair sized boat. They actually do have hooks and ropes. They stop, and they're going to start doing that immediately.
Right. If they can hook the leather bag, that should be sufficiently strong to bring up the object.
We tell them that we think that guy was the murderer, or very likely was the murderer.
That's the young man who was yelling. He's saying things similar, and you hear him as well, Clyde. He's saying, "That was him. That was him. He's the one that hit me and stole my clothes and tied me up."
My man.
That was a big croc.
Yeah, it was a really big crocodile.
The kid didn't live long.
Didn't seem much like
horrible way to die, though.
What an awful way to die. Oh, terrible.
Do we?
I know. Nothing. I was just going to say I was going to dive in after him, but I realized that there's probably crocodiles. So
that's the end of episode 2.
You absolute fool.
Because I'll have to rewrite something.
She's shocked, but she can't look away. She's like, "Oh my, how terrible! I've never seen a crocodile before."
Agatha, who are you standing? Where are you what are you doing while all this is happening? I can't remember what exactly you were doing.
I was with Marcia, so I'll just be standing next to her looking over the railing, I guess.
Okay, so Marcia comes up, or Marcia. Is it Marcia or Marcia?
I'm not sure. What's the British? How do the British say this name? I would say Marcia, but
Marcia sounds cool.
yeah.
Marcia
sounds weird.
Well, I had
That's how the
I had a
British
friend
say
who
it. I
said.
don't know.
So Marcia comes up and is on the deck now, of course, and Agatha's like coming over to her. Agatha, I'm going to give you the opportunity because the others are all more into the action of it and what to do, what to do. You're looking around, and I'd say I would like you to roll a. I'm going to look up what would make sense for you. I'm just trying to think what would make sense. I think you should roll a. You don't have a psychology.
Oh,
You can
I have a
choose.
35. I put points
You
in
do. Okay, then you roll a psychology roll. How is
She
that?
reads so many mystery books.
Well, she watches people. I think she's a people watcher, so
She's a suspicious person.
a judgmental people watcher.
That's a normal success. I got a 31.
Nice.
Okay. Everyone else is watching what's happening. You're watching them. Okay. You saw what was happening. You probably looked away.
Absolutely.
And as you do that, you look towards our private investigator friend. And you notice this very briefly, ever so briefly, smile. His face comes and goes as he sees what happens. And he looks towards that personal assistant that he has with him, Faisal. And he mutters and mumbles something to Faisal, and Faisal takes out a notebook and starts writing some notes down. Just unbeknownst to other people, there's just like a little interaction between them, and it's almost like a thought came to his head. You find it interesting because everybody else is focused on the action, and he's like leaning over and just mumbling something to Faisal, who makes a note and puts the notepad back in his pocket. That's it.
I was definitely thinking there's something up with him, so keeping my eyes on him anyway. And when he says that, I'll whisper over to Marcia and say, look over there. Did he just say that the deed is done or something like that? Did you hear that?
No, I didn't. What do you think he's on about?
Oh, it must just be time for a nap.
Yes, I mean, this has been quite a eventful day.
This heat, we should not discuss these things in the heat around
No,
all these people.
cold cocktail, I think, is called for now.
Most astute.
It must be 10 a.m. somewhere.
Martini's call.
Yes, cold martini. That sounds lovely.
Well,
so the boats come out and they're proceeding to like run the boat over the I guess it's more of it's not a tiny little rowboat by any means. It's a power boat.
yeah.
They bring it over to the area where the disappearance was, and they're scanning the waters, and as predicted, they do note there's a piece of fabric, like they pull up a piece of, like it's a piece of shirt perhaps, floating on the water. They do notice that the current is moving blood. If there's anything like that, they don't see anything like that. But they do bring out the hooks and they start doing some dragging, which is, silty bottom, but they certainly do that. So they're working away at that. The main investigator of the police comes over. He speaks to the captain. He speaks to the private investigator, and then he comes over to you, probably Clyde, because you're the one who came up from the stairs at the time. Says, you should put that away. You should put that away.
Put it away. I just wanted to know if you wanted to take a look at it.
It's very, very nice. Very nice. I really don't know what the laws are regarding weaponry ownership in Egypt by non-citizens in the 1950s, but he just suggests you put that away. And he says, please, what you came from the basement. What can you tell me what happened?
Well, I mean, there's a murder. We thought that we would look around to see if maybe the Amphora was still on board somewhere. And so Miss Ingram Smith and I, that's her over there, we went down to the area where they store the luggage and stuff, and we're snooping around in there and taking a look. We didn't find anything. And suddenly that boy came leaping out of the darkness, pushed past us, and ran up onto the deck. I shouted, stop that man. And he dove over the side into the water. I came close to diving in after him, but then I saw the croc. I shot at it, but it got to him before my bullets did.
Of course. And he points at he says, tip for being in Egypt. If you see those marshes, do not dive in. It's not the safest. No. But thank you very much. We should investigate the basement. Or the basement. I keep saying the basement. I called the freezer in our fridge the fridge basement the other day. So he said, because it's in the bottom. He says, well, we should go look at that. Please come with me. And he asks you to come with him and show him where you had searched. Now the others, what are you doing? The rest of you right now? If Clyde's heading into the bottom of the ship.
Well, I'm quite interested if they pull that bag up because I think it's the Amphora, which reading in that journal, he bought it for $1,000. I could sell for $20,000. It's got my eye.
Okay, so you're watching intently. Okay, I'm guessing you're probably directing them. You're probably pointing, giving them some direction on the ship where they went. Yeah. Okay, Dr. Goss, what are you doing?
Likewise, it's like an unusually engaging game of the claw machine. Like, we don't have a lot of time. Again, there's silt and there's currents, and the thing is heavy, and if it slips out of the bag, unless they happen to catch the hook in the handle, it'll never come up. And I want to see what the underside of it looks like, that unusual mark that made it so valuable.
So you're heavily engrossed in what's happening then.
Marcia, I will stop at a passing porter and request a cocktail because it's 10 o'clock.
Of course, makes sense. Agatha and Marcia, what are you guys? You guys are also heading for cocktails, or are you doing?
I'm getting a gimlet. Yeah, changed my mind.
Liquid breakfast.
Gimlet girl. Yeah.
Okay.
I want to do it where we can maintain a sight line on the investigator, though, and I'd like to see where he is going.
Okay.
I can sort of keep my eyes on him.
Well, there are like shea lounges on the deck, but there's also some other chairs that have little tables, so you can have your cocktail on the deck outside the lounge area. It gives you a view of down the side of the ship, bow to stern, as well as the area where they would go into rooms are. And you see that his interest in what's happening in the water seems to vaporize, and he heads off towards where the rooms are.
Okay. If we walk past him, I'm actually going to invite him to have a drink. Detective, would you care to join us for a drink? We'd love to pick your brain on what you think is happening here.
He stops in his tracks because he does actually walk past you in that direction or close by. Stops in his tracks and he says, "Oh, ladies, thank you for the invitation. But honestly, I have to go check in on my traveling companion to make sure he has all he needs he may have been frightened by the gunshots, so I have to go and make sure that he's okay. So I will join you in 10 minutes, say."
Lovely. We'll save a seat for you.
Perfect.
They split up after I saw them talking to each other.
Yes, they did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Faisal went off to the bow of the ship. You don't know where he went. Is in the direction of where the captain was directing things, and they were dropping the anchor. So he went up that way, down that way. So I'm thinking it's in this direction. They split up, definitely.
Just make sure he's within earshot when I say, "Marcia, did you ever see an animal so big I wonder.
The London Zoo had several crocs, but not nearly as large as the wild ones. I wonder if they eat hippos. Can you imagine? Oh,
It must be famous. What a terrible sight. Such a beast.
I heard that the ancient Egyptians used to worship these creatures.
I read that too. I wonder if this is the one they were worshiping.
It's incredible, incredible.
Such
The
fantasies.
power, the force that this creature took on that poor man. I know he was likely the murderer, but I still feel awful that he came to such an end. You would think you would know how dangerous these waters are. He must have been quite desperate to
And
risk
wasn't
something like
he was from, it looked like he was from here.
that.
He should have
Yeah.
known. He threw himself out with the bathwater.
Uh,
Terrible.
well,
What a tragedy.
yes.
Just an
indeed.
accident. You can't avoid these things, I suppose.
I know. Bartender.
One more.
Tomlinson, how many shots do you think were fired at that crocodile?
Oh, well, Clyde, I thought he squeezed the trigger 4 or 5 times, and the opposite. So I was probably 20, 30.
And does it seem likely to you at all that none of them hit? How tough are the scales on these things? I mean, they're just reptiles. They're not.
Yeah, but it's true. They were also shooting into the water, and shooting into the water is one of the ten commandments not to do of guns, because it kind of ricochets off the water. We in the movies that Marcia makes, they show going in, but I've heard that they don't. You don't want to shoot into the water like that. So maybe that helped it out. But as to how tough their scales are, I don't know. I've never studied the zoology of a reptile like that.
Now, I got to look at the fellow's face as he prepared to jump.
Mm-hmm.
He seemed in a bit of a frenzy, but he didn't seem to be scared of the police, and he didn't seem to be alarmed to be leaping into the Nile near marshy reeds, which any native would realize is folly. So I rather feel as though he just threw himself into the jaws of the thing willingly. And then it was such an unusually large beast and so fearless and so ready. It's almost as though he were offering up the amphora to the crocodile as well as himself.
That's strange.
I'll lay you 4-1 at the stake of your choice that the police control nothing out of the river.
Oh, yeah, I'll take that bet. Let's put $20 on it. $20.
Very good. How long do we give it? 12 hours?
Yeah, if we're not out of here in 12 hours, I'm going to ask for a refund.
We do have an itinerary after all.
Exactly.
Thank you. Cheers.
Drinks arrive. Oh,
Mhm.
one just arrived. There you go. So, Clyde, you while they're doing those discussions and conversations, you do enter the basement with the police officer. He has a flashlight, one of those little U-shaped ones from the 50s with the different colors. Not U-shaped, L-shaped. Turns it on, starts looking around. The general area where you were is fairly well lit. He says,
Yeah,
"This is where you were."
Yeah, we searched there. We searched over there. See, we didn't move any of those things because we figured it wouldn't fit in there. But then he must have been hiding over here behind these trunks, and he waited for us. Actually, it's odd because he must have stayed there hoping that we would just not see him, because I'd say Marcia and I were in here for a good 15 minutes. And it was when we turned and started to move out that he shoved us out of the way and ran. I mean, it's a shame, but thieves get what they deserve.
He pokes around. He looks. Yeah, you must have done a thorough search in here. This area, it's fairly well open. Everything seems to be. And he looks back, says, "Whoa, hold on." And in behind, and he speaks. He is police detective. He speaks perfect English with a slight English accent. So, um,
Uh-huh.
may have been schooled in England, perhaps. You're not sure, but he does. Oh, look, and shoves aside. There's actually a little doorway that you would not have seen that was used for some storage. It was just a little storage area that the doorway had been fairly well flush with the wall, but it had been pushed over. So he'd been hiding in an area, and when he pulls it open, inside this little closet type area, you see on the floor there's a pile of clothing, the porter's clothing with the green cap, and there's a blanket. There is a pillow, like a small pillow that's kind of like one of the ones you have in your room. There is a tray with food remnants on it. There's a cup placed neatly to the side, and there's a flat flask kind of thing with a lid that may have held water. So someone fed. He had food, he had water, he had a place to sleep, and the clothing that he had worn when he was, the porter's clothing.
So he was on here for a while. Somebody was feeding him. There's somebody else on board this. I'm not going to say this out loud to the cops because
Mhm.
screw the cops. I want to figure this out myself. Um, huh. What about that? But I'm going to look
Interesting.
carefully. Are these the various things, the plate, the saucer, the cup? Those are the stuff that we have on the
Yep.
ship.
They're from the lounge area. Well, the lounge and the eating areas where the food that would be brought out to your table. This is exactly the same everything.
Hmm.
Cutlery, plates, cups, the flask, the vessel that has a lid. Um, it's the same one that they would have put at each of the tables with some fresh water or something.
Wow, that's something. Can I go? Do you need me for anything else?
Yeah, if you've given me all the information you have, I think that is sufficient. Thank you.
If
I
I
do
think of
appreciate it.
anything, if something comes to mind that I notice that I don't remember right now, I'll be sure and tell
Of
you.
course. And you and the young lady, neither of you were harmed in this altercation at all?
No, just shoved out of the way. Uh, if I hadn't gone off of balance, I could have tackled him, but
Of
you
course, of
know,
course. Well, thank you for your assistance, and thank you for helping our Mr. friend earlier. But yeah, thank you very much. We will continue with this, but please put that firearm somewhere safe that others don't. Um,
yeah.
we don't want another weapon wandering around on a ship where murder has already taken
Well,
place.
I'm ex-military. I know how to handle a weapon. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent.
Um,
Yeah, so he just lets you go, and he calls one of his men to come and collect up the good materials and make some notes.
I will head back up towards the lounge, and if I see anybody on the way, I'll say, "Meet me in the lounge."
Oh, Agatha
You
and
know,
Marcia are sitting outside the
there.
lounge.
Yeah, ladies, you want to come inside? I got some stuff to talk about, and I don't want anybody to hear.
Yes, yeah,
Good
certainly.
idea.
Well, Dr.
Go
Goss
find.
and Casey are out there as well. I mean, they're just at the edge watching
Yeah,
the doings in the water. You can,
Yeah.
everybody's in the same general area.
Yes, I have
yeah.
I saw something as well. Let's speak privately.
So
Oh,
maybe we can get some crumpets or something, and a little coffee.
Scones. The leftover scones.
mm,
The scones are pretty dry.
yeah.
uh,
Just the way they're meant to be.
That means they're half price. My favorite.
like a desert in your mouth. Um, all right. So Marcia, we were down in the
In the
hold.
hold. Mhm.
So we were just down in there. I was in there with the police. I was showing them where we were, and they found a little cubbyhole door that was down there. I don't know what it's for, maybe storage of rope or who knows what. But there was evidence that that guy was hiding in that hole,
Mm.
And he wasn't just hiding, he had a bedroll and he had a tray and a plate and uh, one of these here fancy cups. Somebody on this boat planted him there and's been bringing him
Hmm.
food. And
But
I
I
don't
thought
think this
we,
happened. I don't think this happened yesterday because that looked like he'd been in there since the beginning of our trip.
It's a stowaway. Yeah.
I thought we were told that there was a boat that came along and deposited him.
That's what we thought,
On the boat.
but this guy has
Hmm.
been there for a while.
There you
Perhaps
go.
And
there's two stowaways.
I'll tell you, it's making me start to feel like we're being set up,
Mhm.
you know.
I had my suspicions about that, Mr. Investigator Langley. He told me a not a very truthful thing. Not that I would ever accuse anyone of lying, such a sinful idea, but he said he was going to check on his mate, his assistant, but he had already spoken to him. I saw them as they were convalescing when the man jumped overboard. So why would he say he needs to check on him after the fact? That's simply not the case.
Lady Dame, I'm sorry, I don't know the peerage stuff. Um, there's this assistant with the funny name, and then there's his client who's hiding out and whose identity he doesn't want to share. So he was going to check on his boss, not on his assistant. They've got a little hierarchy, like the peerage. The question
I
is,
don't,
who's his client that he's hiding on the boat, and why doesn't anyone admit who it is?
Yeah.
I mean, if you go on a cruise on the Nile in the land of the pyramids and the pharaohs, why are you going to stay in your room all the time and never come out on deck and take a look at it? Seems really suspicious to me.
It is.
Especially when people are throwing themselves off board for our entertainment.
Uh,
Hmm.
Also, I mean, the thing is, it's hard to come in anywhere near like accusing somebody like Langley. He's rather famous. He's written a number of books.
Hmm.
Uh, he solved cases all over the place.
Hmm. Well,
You know,
but,
and what we would be accusing him of is not only some sort of deception, but of allowing somebody to be killed right in front
Murdered.
of us. You know, yeah, that doesn't
hmm.
seem
This
likely.
doesn't seem to add up.
But somebody else on this boat, and I'll tell you, a good suspect might be that kid who claims that he got hit.
Oh, yeah?
We saw that uniform down there in that cubby hole.
Mhm.
And I saw one of them trying to pick the lock on the dead man's door. We still haven't spoken to that porter. I suspect maybe several of the porters have something that they're not telling us.
Well, they're
All
all
I'd have to
scared
do.
of the smugglers, but I mean, the uh, Doctor Amari was treating the porter that claimed to be knocked out and left in the hold, and he seems to have gone through a lot just for a ruse to have somebody else wear his same outfit. I think he got clubbed.
I'm
Hmm.
also wondering if we were distracted because when we were busy looking at the boy jumping in the water, the police came on board from the other side of the boat. I honest to God didn't see him pull up. I mean, I'm sure they pulled up, but if somebody wanted us to go in one direction so that they could, it's an old classic what is it called? Misdirection, which is what magicians do,
Yeah, but
you know.
magicians usually, the person doing the misdirection doesn't sacrifice themselves to wild animals.
Well, I'll tell you something. I've lived here in Egypt for about 4 years now,
Hmm.
Hmm.
and the respect for life isn't quite what you'd imagine it is. Some of these people can be pretty damn ruthless, and slavery still exists here. So, at least to some extent,
How do you
mostly
make
sex slaves.
a living here?
Well, I
Did you
really
retire
don't.
very well?
I was an officer. I retired. I mean, I'm still young, but I usually do, odd jobs for anybody who needs them, and I'm a good translator. So,
That's useful.
which is probably why this fellow wanted me to look at the amphora. I mean, I've dealt with a lot of there's a lot of somebody once asked me, what's the most how did they ask me, what's the most British thing that isn't actually British? And I said everything in the British Museum.
That's not funny.
Classic.
It's our heritage now.
We were given those things.
We did invite the good detective to join us, so perhaps we can do a little interrogating of him ourselves.
And on cue,
Perhaps
he does.
before he walks
he
in, I'll
will
say,
arrive at some point soon. Yes.
perhaps one of us can sneak into find out who his client is while we can do some misdirection of our own.
Yeah.
And he arrives. I mean, he arrives with Faisal, his assistant. Faisal gets them both some coffees off, getting coffees for them, and he sits down at the table and says, "Oh, what a horrific situation, people. I'm so happy that we identified the murderer. I'm assuming it's the murderer because who wants to be on a ship with a murderer hanging about? It's absolutely horrific, the thought of trying to sleep when someone like that could be wandering the belly of the ship, also known as the below decks area.
The basement of the ship.
The basement of the ship.
Essentially, the
That's what we
basement
call
of
it in
the
Key
ship.
West, the basement. Mhm.
Well, apparently he's been here for quite some time.
Oh, really? Was there some discovery made?
Yeah, there's a hidey hole in the basement.
He was a stowaway.
Ooh. Really? What information do we have? This sounds interesting. I missed this. I was busy going back to my room.
Okay.
Great detective missing a clue. I feel
I
so
haven't been
honored
briefed.
to be providing you with this
Oh,
information.
please, I haven't spoken to the police. I came directly here at the request of you ladies. I'm about to go speak to the police and the captain to gain some more information because I was amiss briefly. But please, what hidey hole you say in the bow of the belly of the ship?
I'll explain it all to him, but I am
Yeah.
trying to read him from psychology.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Make a roll.
me
Make a roll.
too. Yeah.
Both of you can absolutely make a roll.
I got 28 out of 30.
Okay.
No, I failed that. Yeah.
Wait. He's
So I'm
he's hiding something. He's talking in circles. He's trying to not misdirect so much as he's just
Obfuscate.
kind of lying. He comes across as he's not really telling the whole truth to you.
Mhm. Yeah.
I'll ask him, did you manage to see that young man you were speaking to that you said you had to check on? What was his name? Is he all right?
Oh, I was checking on my client. I'm sorry. I was actually making sure my client, who I was worried the gunshots would have frightened him. He is elderly, so he's fine, just so you know. And I've managed to arrange for some food to be delivered shortly.
About why he doesn't come out and get any fresh air or hang out on the
He's
deck. Or
very looks around to make sure, does quite a dramatic, making sure no one can. He's a very geriatric, very wealthy man, my client.
Oh.
He's not on this trip for the enjoyment of the trip so much as the enjoyment of the destination.
What interest does he have in the destination coming this far?
I am simply assisting him in getting there and performing some duties that he's paying me for that are unrelated to this travel. It's where it's just some missing materials, missing goods.
Why you? Why would this rich geriatric fellow hire a well-known detective to get him to some destination and not somebody like me, a mercenary who would actually That would be exactly what I'd be
and,
hired
and
for.
and you as a bodyguard would be a perfect person, especially one with your knowledge of languages. But he has read all of my books, not my books.
Uh,
I don't write the
he's a
books.
fan.
He's a fan. He's a wealthy fan,
Oh.
and he actually my history of solving mysteries certainly has brought him to this conclusion that I would assist him.
So I'm sorry, I may have been under a misconception. You don't write the stories.
He looks. He's not really. Points at Faisal.
You have a ghostwriter who,
Faisal is
Faisal
constantly
writes for
taking
you.
notes. Yes, Faisal has a background with some police training. He grew up in England. He was born in Egypt, but he also acts as my personal assistant, and he has a way with words. Faisal just sort of does a little bow and all that.
So he's your
Some
Watson.
of
He's
those.
your Watson. You're his Sherlock.
No, I've never thought of it that way. Yes, I guess you could say
Oh.
that.
Hmm.
What odds do you give, Mr. Langley, that the contents of that unfortunate young fellow's duffel will be dredged out of the river?
The nature of alligators, they do tend to take their food back to their nest, wherever that should be. That is what the captain has told me during the incident, that they know that the marsh area there may be where the crocodile has his nest or her nest. So I think if they're dredging the water, they may find the body. They may find something they don't expect to find. But I have a feeling that this area here, we're going to have to search for quite a while to the area of the nests of the crocodile to see if we can identify where it's been dragged. If it may be at the bottom.
Are you at all concerned that your patron's missing goods could have been in the fellow's knapsack when he threw himself into the river?
No, not at all. This is completely unrelated. Completely unrelated.
Well, I mean, if it was an amphora made out of alabaster, then it was pretty damn heavy. I imagine it, unless somehow it didn't rip loose and fall, yeah, it would have been dragged into the reeds somewhere. It might never be found. Hopefully, it just sank to the bottom. Dr. Gross, you mentioned silt on the bottom. There's not much silt. The water's constantly flowing, so it's pretty rocky down there on the bottom. The silt all gets deposited on the side.
Well, but we're not far from the side, and that's what the reeds grow in. They don't grow in rocks. I've never been under the Nile, though, so you're probably more experienced than I.
It's only about 25 feet deep.
That's pretty
Swim to the bottom
steep.
of it pretty easily and come back up.
You could, perhaps, if you didn't have a knapsack full of ancient rock
Well, and
to you.
you can't see because there is silt in the water. Lots of
What
it.
use throwing yourself into the river, the crocodiles? You would never get away with the valuables. Why would you do that?
Certainly wouldn't have been able to swim very
It's
well.
very bizarre, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Did you by chance smell when you were in below decks, the belly of the ship, did you perhaps smell anything like hashish?
Did I?
I'm wondering if perhaps he was drugged.
Did I smell anything?
No, you didn't. You didn't
Can't-
see any paraphernalia or anything, nothing.
Can't imagine I would know hashish if I smelled it.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Robinson has lived in Egypt for a while, and then may have been in some of the more seedier areas that suited to someone with his
Oh,
background.
please. They smoke hashish in water pipes in the nicest places
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, you didn't smell anything. You didn't see any paraphernalia. There was not anything down there that would have indicated that.
Honestly, I didn't think to look. You can go ask the police because they were going through it when I left. I didn't want to hang around. I mean, I'm not here to solve murders or.
Excellent idea. I think, Faisal, we should go down and speak to the police now and talk to them about that idea. Suggest that they may wish to look, because he had a kind of a mania about him, a look that something was. It is not normal to jump into a river full of crocodiles, especially with your booty on the back, so to speak.
Yeah, he'll do that.
Perhaps he expected to fly into the sky with a magic spell. These
Never
people seem
knows.
so superstitious, don't they?
One never knows. Never knows. Well, thank you all. Thank you all. Yeah, I'm at your service, at your disposal for the remainder of the trip. If there's anything you need, I'm happy to see the murderer has, has been found. Sad to say he did not find his way to justice. Though some may say the justice was meted out by nature.
Oh,
And
well.
he just does a bow and wanders off with Faisal out the door.
So, it's a strange man.
How convenient.
Hmm
Yeah,
I wonder if this will be another one of his books.
I'm wondering if, I'm wondering if his books are all that real or if they're stories that he makes up.
Oh, I have all of them in my libraries. There's one every year without fail.
Like Agatha Christie.
Not as good, though.
The problem is, doesn't act very much like a detective.
No.
I mean, go
Yeah,
talk to the police.
Seems to
what a
be kind
great
of on the
idea.
back foot quite a bit.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Catching
it could
up.
be that well, I'd say that this Feifel fellow might be the detective, but he's not asking questions either. He's following something's really
Maybe he puts
fishy
it
here.
together when he's just observing. He's like going, I wonder if we could get a look at the manifest and we could see, who this mystery client is. Wouldn't his name be on the passenger manifest?
Probably. I don't know what their policy is for privacy.
Well, you signed a log when you boarded the ship, just so you know.
Mhm.
There's a gangplank and there's like the 1950s style customs you went through. They checked your bags, asked you questions, and you signed a manifest with your name, address,
Well,
that kind of thing. So, and that was a large book. You were probably midway through the book, and it was a fairly hefty, large log,
where
black.
was this log?
Yeah.
It was on a table at the bottom of the gangplank when you boarded the ship, but after you would have noticed that when everybody was on board, because it's not a large number of there's a total of 10 paying customers for this trip right now, this time. They gathered everything up and they took it off to the main area where the captain, pilots the ship.
Oh,
Huh.
any of you know how to pick locks?
The
I know how
bridge.
to pick every
Yes.
lock.
Oh, you do?
Yes, I have something in my purse called a checkbook.
Ah, yes. I have found that is a very effective lock.
Shall we speak to the captain?
or maybe
Well,
second mate.
yeah.
Captain has a reputation to maintain if he wants to keep his vessel, whereas his staff is probably not very well remunerated. Those of you who were in the hold, was there any sign that in his little hidey hole or elsewhere that a crate had been busted up or anything? Was there any packaging strewn about?
We didn't see anything.
I didn't notice anything.
We searched quite exhaustively in the hold and didn't seem there was anything where the amphora would have been busted out of.
I mean, we have the same problem that we've had before. They tried to pick the lock and they couldn't pick the lock. They bashed his head in, but they didn't take his key.
Hmm.
He had something in his backpack that was heavy, but we have no reason to assume it was the amphora because we have no idea how the thief or stowaway or whatever he was could have gotten it.
Could have been a decoy amphora as well.
Maybe.
Perhaps to obscure that
Got
the
an
real one
idea.
is still on ship.
Okay. So a ship this size, it's got so many glasses, plates, and so forth. And we saw that somebody had brought our little stowaway, little gator bait, snack, food, drinks, whatever. So I don't know if this will work, but could ask the staff who ordered the food and then never returned the plate, glass, or cup.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's assuming that it wasn't a crew member that was keeping him. I mean, we've got this smuggling organization that everyone's afraid of, and it's easy enough for the crew to divert some foodstuffs into the hold. Whereas if you saw a passenger carrying soup and sandwiches down into the belly of the ship, would look peculiar.
Strange. Yeah.
Well, maybe, people who work on these boats are discreet, so they wouldn't necessarily pay any attention but it might be stuck up in their head. I don't know. It seems to me that if you're going to steal this valuable item, it's not going to be done by the people who are running the ship, because they're running the ship. How would they even know that such a thing was going to be on board? It's got to be somebody who knew the damn thing was here.
I mean, I don't know. None of us even saw this amphora. Are we even sure it was actually here? The only thing that said it was the murder victim, and he could have just been trying to get us to his room to do a bait and switch. Oh, like some hotels that are popping up in Florida, they'll go, oh, we'll give you a free meal. And next thing you know, they're talking about trying to sell you a room for a year that you could use once a week or something.
Well, and I know why he wanted me to come to his room.
Oh, well.
It's another matter entirely.
Yeah, like I say, it all feels like a bunch of little deceptions.
Well,
not getting the full story here.
No. Let's go. Let's see if we can find that mate and take a look at that logbook. I'm pretty good at reading accounting.
Before you already met. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm gonna go back and continue to watch the efforts to drag the riverbed. But since we represent half of the paying customers on this vessel, how do you feel about, I'm going to either suggest to the captain that we maintain our itinerary and get a move on. I have pyramids to investigate. Or do we want to stay here until this matter is resolved and we see what that fellow had in his sack?
It seems like it's an extremely valuable item. They should take some time to try to recover it.
I mean, that's completely the assumption that somebody was murdered for something valuable. But there was no evidence, except that the fellow leapt off the ship with something too heavy to swim with in the crocodile-infested waters. But again, he doesn't seem to have been in his right mind. Hashish aside.
Damn foolish thing to do.
We'll ponder whether we want to get a move on or stick around to watch. I've got money riding on this. I'm going to go and give them some advice about where to scoop.
Okay. So Dr. Goss, you're going to continue watching and assisting from the sidelines.
Yes.
I will suggest only one or two other people plus myself go to find the log, because if we're all going at once, that's really suspicious.
So we're asking the first mate, to show us the log, essentially.
Give us a tour.
Well, I'm happy to use my feminine wiles to.
I'm just going to go on a walkabout and keep my ears and eyes open.
Okay. What's Casey up to?
Casey's going to go by. Now, are these cabins? Do they have windows in, with blinds covering in?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm just going to go walking along and try and see if I can figure out who's in which room. Because you said there's 10 paying customers, correct? So
That's
there's
correct.
the 5 of us. Then am I correct that the detective, Langley and Faisal, that's 2 more, and then his client. So there should only be 2 other paying
And
customers that
Arthur
are
Lawrence was the other one. The
Arthur
deceased.
Lawrence. There's
And
only
Dr.
one.
Amari. It's
No,
Dr. Amari.
Dr. Murray is staff. He's
He's
not.
staff on the boat.
So we got one person, that like we don't.
Accounted for.
Yeah.
I can tell you their name in just 2 seconds. It's a very elderly man. His name is Luke Collier.
Luke Collier. Okay.
Elderly man. He has a nursemaid. So she's there as well. So she's not really she's considered staff, but she's not. She's staff of the company, but she is caring for him on the ship as well. You don't know her name yet. But yeah, Luke Collier, he's an older man. You did meet him at one of the first nights on the ship. Working class. It's like he ran a mining company of some sort at one point. So he has money, but he's kind of rough and tumble, kind of old school, worked his way up kind of thing, from Wales.
Okay. All right. And so he's the other one. So the only person we don't know the name of is his client. Okay. All right. So yeah, I'm gonna start walking around and trying to figure out which room this client is in. I believe he would be in. Kind of.
You can work it out pretty quick, which ones are not your rooms.
Right.
Even just walking by, it's the one with the blind shut is your estimation.
All right. Okay. All right. Cool. Let me think on this.
Okay. Okay. Where to start? Dr. Goss, I'll just give you an update. So they're dragging, they're going back and forth. They thought they had something. There's a lot of excitement. But when you were watching it, and the boat, you actually see the boat move. They hooked something that pulled the boat. So they may have actually hooked a crocodile at one point, but it got loose. A lot of excitement, a lot of yelling. Somebody flies back, and the rope goes taut, and they think, "Oh my God!" But it wasn't what they expected. They're moving back and forth as they would towards the upstream, moving back downstream, trying to get ahead of anything that would flow away. And as you watch, they pull up some more pieces of shirt that's floating by. That seem to have been caught in a hook. So there's some excitement. They have an idea where closer to the reeds area where it gets a little bit shallower. So they're moving it over there, moving the search in that general area. Progress, yes. Clyde, what were you doing? I can't remember. I'm sorry.
That's Clyde. Sorry.
I'm just wandering about the ship, keeping my eyes and ears open because I'm here on vacation and I'll solve the murder if it, catches my interest.
You're storming around, military guy, don't looking into things, being there, doing your thing. Police nod at you. You see what's happening. Agatha and Marcia, you guys, you're heading where exactly? To the bridge? Is that where you're going, or are you going to where okay. You actually see the first and second mate talking outside the bridge, outside of the doorway, and they nod to each other, and then the first mate goes back to where the search is happening, and the second mate is standing there nodding at you. Ladies, I'm very sorry for what you had to witness earlier.
Oh, yes, it was really quite dreadful, but we feel very safe and comfortable with your able hands taking care of the ship. Thank you for all of your service and dedication to the crew.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your words.
Is there anything we can do to be of service?
I would say we assume everything's been taken care of. We assume that the villain has been captured. Well, not captured, eaten. We assume the villain has been dealt with. But please keep your eyes and ears open to let us know if you see anything or hear anything. There's still the question of the missing materials, so please make sure you lock your doors to your rooms until we search the ship completely, which we're doing now.
Yes, well, this whole affair is certainly got my imagination stirring. You don't think you could assuage an old lady's fears by showing us how all these wheels and gauges are operating inside of the bridge. I've never had a tour of a boat before. It's also very wonderful.
Oh,
Well,
yes. That sounds wonderful. Get my mind off all this nasty business.
oh,
Yes.
he invites you in. It's not the doors are open. They're not. It's not a closed ship. It's too hot to have the doors open. Windows are open. Doors are open. He brings you in and starts giving you like this is the steering thing. This
Oh
is
my.
the speed control. This is the horn. It gives you the whole rundown on all the different parts of the ship. You know,
While he's
excuse
showing
me.
me, I'll just like point to Marcia to find the
Yeah.
logbook, and
Yeah.
Okay.
Agatha, yeah.
I'll
Be
distract.
Okay.
yeah,
Like, and this is
naggy.
a
And
lever,
yeah,
Is
Marcia's
that
going to be kind of
French?
or is it
searching around.
lever?
Yeah.
Well,
Mar-
he's very he's like very excited to explain everything. No one comes to the bridge and asks questions. It's not like nowadays where there's kids on ships like I want to tour the cat. It's very exciting. So he's explaining things to you in minute detail. Roll a spot hidden, and I'll tell you how well you do.
that's a 16. That's a hard.
Okay. There's actually a shelf off to the right hand side, back, behind a chair. The first mate would normally sit in front of that shelf and do his work. First mate's not there. Captain's doing other things with the police. Second mate's with you, and there's a couple crew members just wandering in and out. But on that shelf is a large book, and by chance, it's exactly what you're looking for. It is the logbook. There's other books. There's map books and things like that. They pull out onto this table to look at. Are very relatively small because the ship is not huge. But there's a logbook right there in front of you.
Okay. So it's probably too large for me to like slip it into my purse. Like
It's a
it's
good
probably
size
not.
book. Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
it's
So I
it's
can't
like
really.
bigger than a yearbook kind of thing.
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna kind of like surreptitiously then open it and look at the log and note the
Okay.
names that are in there for our
Okay.
trip.
Agatha, I think you would have to attempt. I don't have your sheet open. Agatha, you would have to attempt to distract. So, uh,
Uh, Persuade him.
persuade is the best way to do that. Yeah. So, to persuade him to pay attention to what you're talking to, I guess.
Yeah. So giving him my backstory, trying to enchant him with tales of England and asking him about strange stories from his homeland, and that is an extreme.
Success? Not. Oh, yeah, not an extreme failure. Extreme success. Excellent. Yeah, he turns around and says, "What are you doing?" No. Um,
Yeah.
Okay, he is engrossed in your stories. You remind him of his mother, perhaps, which it would probably not make Agatha the happiest, but you
I'll
remind him
give
of
him
his
some of
mother.
the
He's
old
had,
scones.
yeah, he's and you distract him. So Marcia, you can open the book and click, 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 click. It's the last entry because it's like the last entry in the book. You see all the names that were mentioned before, and you see in very fine writing, very very precise handwriting, is the name Demetrius Ptolemy.
Follow me, PTOL.
PT. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Demetrius. Okay, I'm gonna lock that away, and then I'll join. Oh, let me see what you're all looking at over here. Is that an astrolabe? Oh my gosh, I saw that on set with Errol Flynn one time. Oh my, didn't think they were actually real.
It is actually. They have one.
Oh,
Yes, you are correct. They do have one. He's very excited. There's a compass, like a great big compass on a stand. He's very excited to show you the compass.
They're really cool. Uh, I want to ask him if they have any tales about large crocodiles in the river. It's that crocodile we
Oh,
saw just made my imagination go wild of books I read in National Geographic, but certainly there's some sort of crocodile gods or something you can tell us about.
well, this is Isa Al Sadat, and he's the second mate that you're talking to. He actually comes from a village along the river. He gives you the history of he grew up. They're terrified of crocodiles. They lived by the river. The river was their lifeblood for their family's income. But they grew to respect crocodiles. He's not up on the ancient religions so much, but he can tell you that I love how you pulled this out of a hat. Can tell you that I got all this stuff out in front of me here. Sobek is actually an ancient crocodile-headed man god, and he doesn't know much about this Sobek, but he definitely knows that that is one of the ancient gods that everyone spoke of. Crocodile head, man shape. So when you get to the Valley of the Kings, he tells you you'll be given tours. And you'll see hieroglyphics and drawings and pictures and such. You'll probably see one of those.
Marvelous. That is why we're here. Of course, it's becoming so dangerous. If there was anything that you could tell us to keep us safe, anything to look out for in the future, signs that these ruffians might use to communicate, you would tell us, wouldn't you?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You do not need to worry. We have a good control of the ship now. We're being more cautious than before. These people, these gangs, they sneak onto ships sometimes, but we're going to have more patrols. We're going to increase our patrols. And he does actually say to you, I think, so you know, this is probably just a gang upon gang theft ring thing happening between people, and they may have gotten wind of something on the ship that they thought they could steal, because this has happened in towns and villages. And he says the group, this smuggling theft group, is called the Black Sands.
Whoa.
That's what he's getting excited, but he's whispering it to you like he doesn't want to say it out loud.
Hear that, Marcia? How mysterious.
I know. Gosh.
How do they operate?
Positively piratical.
They're just these.
They're in the papers, the newspapers. They talk of the Black Sands swooping in and stealing artifacts and selling them in France and Germany and
these ruffian gangs. Oh, I wonder if there's any aboard right now.
If there was, he's crocodile food.
Oh, thank you so much for the tour, Mr. Isha Al Sadat. It was very educational.
Thank you. Thank you for being so understanding of our situation.
I will give him a quarter. Here you go.
So let's flip over to Casey. Casey, what?
Okay, so what I was gonna do, I'm gonna, because I assume to get into our rooms we have actual keys and stuff.
Yes.
I'm gonna have my keys in my hand, and at the door of the client, the door, I'm just going to jiggle the handle and see if it's unlocked.
It's locked.
Okay. And I'll just kind of like, what I'm trying to do is make it sound like I'm trying to open the door with my key. That way, if he answers it, I can go, oh, I thought this was my room, and so, kind of like, and then kind of listen every once in a while, see if I hear any sounds in there.
Okay, make a listen roll.
Okay. Holy crap, that dice went flying. 37 on a listen of 20. That is no. So
okay. There's too much commotion on the deck. Police talking, people yelling back and forth. No, you don't hear anything.
Okay. All right. And after a couple minutes of that, if I kind of think, well, if he answers it now, it's going to look painfully obvious that my ruse is not accurate anymore. Is there like a room plan on the wall, like, oh, here's the fire exit, you are here, and
probably some kind of fire plan, like you are here, here are the lifeboats. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I'm gonna kind of look at that, and are any of these rooms like Are they all kind of the same? Looking at that plan, are they all kind of the same, or are some of them larger, some of them smaller?
There are two of the rooms are larger than the rest. There's
Hmm.
like, there's 18 rooms that are just regular size. Two are larger there at the front of the ship, and one is Mr. Demetrius, well, yeah, call
Okay.
him Mr. Ptolemy. Um,
Mr. Ptolemy. Okay.
Ptolemy's room is one of the larger rooms, and on the other side of the boat is Mr. Collier's room is also a larger one.
Okay. All right. They don't have a shared door like those old hotel rooms.
No,
Okay. All
no.
right. All right.
Although
Cool.
some of the rooms do have that. Some of the smaller rooms do have an adjoining door between them,
Hmm.
like four of them at the back, say. But I mean, you guys are actually in some of those rooms, so
Okay.
they're locked if it's not requested.
All right. Okay. All right. So I'll walk away from that because, like I said, it kind of start look like I was being obvious, and then I'll go up and see how my bet with Dr. Goss is coming. I'm out $20 or not.
All right, I'll do that one in a minute. Tom, sorry, Clyde, you're wandering the ship. You see commotion, people doing the searching in the water still. You see Agatha and Marcia in the bridge talking to the second mate. You see the captain walk by. You see the police chief, and the police chief is just coming up is actually going down into the basement with Mr. Lawrence.
I
Langley,
since
not the dead guy.
I'm a white American on board this ship, most of them probably don't even know that I speak Arabic, so I'm keeping my ears open in case somebody says, something.
Okay. Okay. They do speak Arabic to one another when they're working, so you hear the usual conversations. Nothing you specifically have to roll for
Nothing
because it's just talking about boat stuff, what happened, the shooting, how exciting this was. Wow, that was a big crocodile. That kind of conversation back and forth.
Okay. Um, well, in that case, I don't know. I'll just keep wandering until I notice one of our other people, and
Well, you see Casey and Dr. Gossard, they're nearby actually, looking over the edge. And at this moment, you hear some yelling from the boat. I mean, it didn't take very long.
sounds like
They've hooked something. Yeah,
they might have found something.
you
They
see
might have
them
gotten
reeling in,
lucky.
reeling in, and reeling in, and they actually do. This is about maybe an hour later, say, but they
Right.
do actually pull up the body of the young man that had been taken away by the crocodile, and his shirt is shredded. There's bite marks on him, but he's whole. He's
Mm.
they pull him into the water. They drop him
Is the
into the ship.
backpack still
Is he
attached?
okay?
Is he okay?
Are you all right?
Mouth to mouth. No,
But
We need a doctor.
CPR.
but the bag is not
the
didn't
bag
come
is
up with.
not.
Okay.
No, the bag is not with him.
So the
Hmm.
bag is got to be down there. There's still a good possibility they'll snag it.
I mean, they found the body. He couldn't have gotten too far away.
Is the body right where the accident happened, or is it close
It's
to the
moved. It's a
shore?
little closer to the shore and down a little bit, drifted a bit due to the current. But you got caught up on some rocks close to the edge, close to the
I
marshy area.
I want to see if it's possible for me to assist them. If I can call some of them over and get into the boat with them, I'll use one of the gaffing hooks to see if I could hook stuff in the bottom.
They'll let you. I mean, they're getting tired. They're any volunteers, they'll
Yeah,
they'll accept the assistance.
yeah.
They're
I'm a
they're
hardworking fella, so
yeah, you're a hardworking fella. You actually speak Arabic. If you choose to do that, you know might
I
give them a
like to
little.
speak English and then hope
Oh,
that
okay.
they start saying nasty things about me. And then I can surprise them by suddenly
He's really
talking.
tall. He's really tall and strong. Let him do all the hard work. That you do hear that. So yeah, you can certainly you're throwing out, you're hooking things. That's logs and the occasional rock you get caught up on. I would say that, after a little while, you're getting tired, it's getting hot, and you don't find the sack. And Dr. Goss and
That's a
Casey, you
shame.
guys are one of you is cheering, one of you is not cheering internally.
Yeah.
To be clear. Now the sack is not found.
Losers. Dang it.
Essentially,
So by
it
the
was
time
a-
I get, sorry, go ahead.
basically it was a psychological bet for me. I want to see what's in the sack, but at least if I don't, I make some money.
Mhm.
Okay. So they will go at it for a while. Agatha and Marcia, you finished with the what are you going to do now? You see Clyde out on the boat. You see him strangely enough, he's out with the police throwing hooks in the water. You're not surprised really, but you're kind of surprised. And you see Dr. Goss and Casey standing on the railing by the railing watching the goings on.
These men always have to be involved in something physical. Gentlemen, I
I've
figured
taken
out.
off my shirt and
Yeah, I'm just
I'm
so
out there in the
typical.
sun.
He's trying to show off for you, Marcia.
Well, gentlemen, I have discovered who our mystery man is.
Oh, really?
Mm. Oh, I thought you were. Are you on the boat? Are you?
They're on the boat. I'm not.
Oh, okay, okay. Oh, Clyde, you're out there. I see.
Yeah,
I'm the
yeah,
only one
yeah.
out there. Yeah.
Okay. So our mystery man is a Mr. Demetrius Ptolemy, a very strange name. Are either of you familiar with this man?
Does,
Um,
does that
no.
ring a bell?
I'm going to say you don't even have to roll it because of your background. Just looking here very quickly. You're a doctor of medicine, but you have an interest in archaeology. Oh, yes, you have a serious interest in archaeology.
I'm
So yes.
actually, I'm better at that than I'm at my day job.
Okay.
More passionate.
You don't even have to roll. You recognize the name immediately. He is a publisher of American Archaeology magazine.
Mm.
Sorry, British Archaeology magazine.
Which, and what was it that the Langley said about him having lost property or something
He
to
said
that
he was
effect?
helping him find. He's been hired to travel with him. You don't know exactly where, but you assume where the ship is turning around, or because otherwise it'd be going back all the way up to the pyramids at the north. You assume that he's looking for helping him retrieve some missing goods. That's all he said.
Oh. Hmm.
And we also learned that there's perhaps some gang activity, something called the Black Sands could be involved in all of this. I wonder if perhaps they were the ones who stole Mr. Ptolemy's items.
Yeah.
Well, Casey, you might make a roll too at this Nate when you hear the Black Sands.
Okay.
Uh, it could be that's not what would be not your archaeology. What?
Nope. No. I don't dig.
No.
I evaluate it.
Yeah. So I would say Black Sands. You choose what you think would be reasonable.
Maybe a knowledge roll from education.
Knowledge or education might be.
All right. Sounds good. 18, which is a hard.
You have heard of these people through, you know of the various criminal gangs in the United States and North America, but definitely the Black Sands is one that you've heard of in the last 5, 7, 8 years. Definitely, they've been in some obscure periodicals about antiques. You might come across about they're known for stealing materials from various dig sites or wherever they can steal them, museums perhaps, and then reselling them in the open market. Not the open market, the black market.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. We're supposed to watch out for them because if we get caught buying goods from them, the police are going to take in, and then we get charged for having stolen goods and all. Yeah.
So is it safe to assume that the symbol that was on the parchment that was shoved into Lawrence's mouth is the symbol of the Black Sands?
That's
I
kind of
don't
what Marcia and were implying that Mr. Sadat was saying.
Nobody asked him about the symbol, though. Like,
No,
Yeah.
no, but
you guys have kept that to yourselves so far.
He didn't imply it, but it would make
And I'm
a little
not
bit.
sure if I saw the symbol, so I think that's why I didn't bring it up. But
After hearing Black Sands, do I remember ever in the telegrams that were sent in the room that name anywhere in any of the telegrams?
Hmm. You don't still have them. You left them in the room, I
Right.
believe. Yes. I don't. There were some short forms used for things that you didn't necessarily. I mean, telegrams.
Mm.
Trying to save space sometimes by using short forms and anagrams and such. But I don't think you remember anything that led you to believe it was mentioned.
I wonder if he mentioned it in his journal.
Probably
I
not
take it-
as. I'm wondering whether, for the most part, I feel as though we should not expect to get any information from Mr. Langley, and
Yeah.
perhaps don't want to offer him any more assistance for free since he's distinctly dishonest with us and has a secret agenda. But I wonder if he or his client, Mr. Ptolemy, would recognize the initials TDK, because we have now everybody's connected in one way or another to stolen or mishandled artifacts. Everyone except perhaps the crocodile snack, and the poor croc didn't even eat.
Mm-hmm.
well, I'll go look at the journal and see if there's any references to the Black Sands or even to Demetrius Ptolemy. Perhaps there's some reference to him in there as well.
I would imagine that a figure of dubious romantic self-image like Mr. Lawrence would call him the old Greek or something, quaint about hiding people's identities in his personal papers and the like.
Mm-hmm.
I have a suspicion.
Probably
Oh.
approaching now, all hot and sweaty and
Yeah,
shirtless.
you're getting tired. Clyde is
I don't think
now
we're going to
tired.
find anything. I don't
Yeah.
think we're going to find
You
anything.
find log, like a big waterlogged piece of wood pulls up. You do pull up like a something interesting. You pull up like a little piece of carved wood, like it's a very crude statuette of something. Something just in the bottom of the water. Then they're like, "Yep, throw it in the bottom of the boat." Those things pop up all the time. It's just a
Trinkets. Yeah.
trinket kind of thing. But no, you do not find the sack.
Something you had said, Mr. Robinson, about being distracted when the police came.
Hmm.
I wonder if those are real police. They could have been in league with these smugglers and taken the real payload when they came aboard. The death of that man jumping off board would have been the perfect distraction to turn everyone's eyes away as the police came on board and handed off the package. No one would even suspect it.
Well, and you know that there are always ways you can get people to commit suicide, to save their families from this or that, or to
He was a member of that
Offers.
Black Sands group. I'm sure he was in some trouble.
Black Sands.
Oh, you haven't heard. We uncovered the name of the smuggling ring and the client. We'll fill you in.
I rolled a 45. Can we say that, living here for 4 years, I've seen the name of the newspaper?
Yep, absolutely. Now that you've heard about it through various discussions here and there, but it's common knowledge that there's a group. They go by the name of the Black Sands, and they they steal and resell material, artifacts and such.
They're smugglers and black market.
Yeah,
Does that
black
name mean
marketeers.
something to you?
Only in passing. I should probably point out, since we're all doing a lot of sleuthing on our own, uh, I'm going to start to look suspicious because I've been here and I've been helping various people get artifacts out of the country.
Mhm.
But nothing like this, and certainly nothing that illegal, you know,
Hmm.
British Museum.
Yeah. I mean, save me
uh,
then. Save me.
but yeah, I've lived here 4 years. I do speak Arabic. You might start thinking that I have, smugglers that I know, and I don't. But
You might have
just,
met them and you don't know they were smugglers.
yeah,
That's
or I might have known they were smugglers, and I
and
just
didn't,
stayed
yeah,
away.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm not gonna get a knife in my pack. Uh,
Yeah. So Kate,
this
Clyde,
is
you're back on the ship. You can say
yeah.
that. You've talked to them, you're back at the ship and you're cooling off with a nice cold drink.
Now, was there anything about the cops that didn't seem very cop-like to me?
The boats had the right markings, they had the right uniforms, they carried the British World War II era pistols. Um
Yeah, Lady
Standard.
Agatha, I'm pretty sure they were real cops.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but
They could
even
be
cops can
correct.
be bribed to work
Right.
with
Mhm.
shady
And
people to be.
you mentioned Demetrius Ptolemy. He's a archaeologist. He's a magazine
Yeah.
publisher.
Yeah, and of course a collector in his own right, and an elderly fellow. I'm not sure even why he's coming in person and didn't just send Langley. Maybe he's looking to identify something personally.
Maybe he's old and sick and just
All the more
really
reason to stay
resting
off the
up for.
Nile.
Why come to malaria-ridden
Well,
Egypt?
Langley said that what is our final destination on this
Uh,
Luxor.
boat?
Valley of the Kings, right? Yeah.
Valley of
He's
the
heading
Kings,
for
Luxor.
Luxor, the Valley of the Kings. Maybe he knows something. Maybe he wants to see something. Maybe there's a new tomb that's being researched and
hmm.
discovered that hasn't been publicized yet.
Well, I mean, if anybody had inside information, he'd be a likely candidate.
Yeah.
Although
Well,
also anything
we're
Langley
past
says is,
Tutankhamun, aren't we?
Oh yes, that was
Yeah.
1920s,
yeah.
I believe.
Yeah.
And just so you know, the mail has now arrived. The ship arrived with the packages come for people on the ship and such. You may have got some of you may have got some things from family members. Maybe people got nothing. Dr. Goss, you got a letter, and I put information on the letter in the chat on Discord chat for you.
Excellent.
Mhm.
Uh, so the police are sort of wrapping up, not wrapping up, but now they pulled the ship back, their boat back to the ship. They said that they will bring another crew out, a few more smaller boats to continue looking, but they're very cautious around the reeds and the crocodile nest. But they will certainly go in there and look and see if they find anything else. They suspect that if it's gone, they may not find what you're looking, what's
Truth
gone
is,
missing.
it could be literally setting 2 feet from them, and they
Yeah.
still don't find it.
Yeah,
So
they say things go
they
missing,
can't see.
things are stolen, but they will continue looking for a bit longer. And they give, after about an hour, lunch is being served, and now it's noonish, noon to one. Food is being served, and they give the captain permission to move on. They've got all the information they need. Uh, and from the bottom, you've seen the captain has now come up again with the investigator, uh, Mr. Langley, and says, "Well, we did not find any more evidence of anything being hidden down there. We certainly didn't find any uh, drugs. We were thinking hashish might be
Hmm.
something. It was an excellent idea that Mr. Langley here has suggested, is that perhaps the person was a drug using fiend, and so he just reiterates what you suggested, but." Yeah, it's a yeah. It was it's a it's nothing, and they just are closing up shop in terms of the investigation. They think they found the thief and killer, and sorry to say that this object, whatever was on his back, has gone missing. But they will continue looking, and the ship is ready to move on.
What's that cubby hole normally used for?
That's used cleaning material, like just cleaning materials, mops, buckets for cleaning the decks. It's just a closet. But he said, strangely enough, the handle had been taken off the outside. Normally there was a handle there, but it had been busted off, so it looked like it was just part of the wall in the darkness. They say that somebody must have brought this person food after they got on the ship, so they could hide out. And the police investigator feels that you searching around may have set him off, and he got frightened that you were going to find him, so he just ran off and took off and somehow got frightened and jumped off ship out in panic.
So sequence of events. Go ahead.
The question then is, if it's evident that somebody on board was feeding and assisting the stowaway, who is now dead and can answer no questions, and who may be Mr. Lawrence's murderer, isn't it a matter of import to find out who is collaborating with this stowaway before we just sail away?
We're continuing to ask questions of the staff to see who was last responsible for food. A trolley goes around outside your rooms in bad weather or nighttime, if for those who don't wish to go into the lounge and food is brought. The porter does mention that a tray of food went missing off the trolley at one point, so they suspect that perhaps the fellow snuck up on deck and stole it, and took it back down to his little hidey spot last night.
Uh-huh.
Well, I think it's good news that we're on our way, at least. I don't think anything was going to be dug up, and sorry, I think, Mr. Tomlinson, that's officially the end of our wager.
Yeah. Well, here's the 20. It's a double punch for me. You lose 20 bucks, and I don't get to see what they're pulling up.
Well, if we ever hear reading the newspaper that they found something out there, because my guess is if the idea that there is a priceless vase that was lost there, you're going to have all the locals looking for it eventually.
Yeah, if that's the rumor that goes out, again, there isn't really any basis. I mean, we're the only people who have heard of this Alabaster Amphora, practically.
And we never saw it.
And we never saw it or figured out where it could possibly have been stowed away. So as far as I know, that fellow was ordered by the gang to stuff his rucksack with rocks and throw himself into the river. And he didn't look drugged, but he looked
focused. Like he knew what he was doing.
Yeah, wild, but not panicked. He wasn't fleeing in terror. He knew, in a sense, what he was doing, but was driven.
And we know the Black Sands, they're one of two of these gangs who are fighting each other. But who's the name of the other gang of people? Do they have a name?
I'm unfamiliar. I would suppose Robinson might have heard such a thing. He who protested it much.
It's possible that you would have heard the name, but I don't think the other one is as organized. It's more of a loose organization of just various little groups and such. I don't think they're not as tight knit as the Black Sands.
The
So
Sandy Gray
like-
Club.
The Black Sand are kind of more prominent.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're the professional gang, not just
anyone.
And I return to, again, perhaps an accurate supposition, but if Lawrence was murdered because of an affiliation or violation with the smuggling group that has the symbol with the sword and the knife, and they stuck that indicator of that affiliation in his mouth as a warning, who was the warning for? And somebody, I mean, it's the only reason to put an object like that into a murder victim is to tell someone else to as a warning sign to someone else. But we don't have any idea who on board would understand that warning.
Yeah.
At any rate,
Probably whoever was collaborating with the man who threw himself overboard.
Oh, Will, that's a really good question.
I mean, he
Uh,
didn't tell himself to hide there.
um, is Detective still here?
He is. He's here.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm not going to say anything then until he leaves.
Okay. Well, you're on the deck. You guys are moving into an area where the food is being prepared for you and such. And the detective's milling about, big smile on his face. Faisal's not with him now. Faisal must have wandered off to another part of the ship. And yeah, it's food time. Everybody eats a meal. The captain stands up and ding 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 makes an announcement that they're now moving forward. And as was planned, tomorrow morning they will be stopping at a small town of El Badari, and they will be having a off the ship event for you.
Oh.
They will tender you off the ship into this an area outside of the town, and they will prepare for you an authentic Egyptian meal in a safe area away from the crocodiles. No, he doesn't say that, but close to the town. They're going to have an authentic Egyptian celebration for you of some sort.
Well, if there's a somewhat private moment as we're walking on the deck or whatever, I'm going to get up close to Dr. Gross and I'm going to say, you asked a really good question. If you put the thing in the guy's mouth, you're sending a message, but to who? The answer is, who would be the one to have to examine the body? The doctor on board the ship.
can I roll a retroactive psychology? I feel like
Mhm.
he didn't have any idea to look in the mouth before I did.
Yep,
Plus,
absolutely.
he already did.
Well, I didn't. My retroactive psychology, I was distracted by the grotesque corpse and the next to the
Of course.
dried hams,
But
and
but
it's
you
not
do bring
hams.
up a good argument because if he did see it already, then he would have taken it out, I'm sure.
Yeah, that would be the thing. Because only the murderer would know it was there, and they're not likely to tell us about it. So
Yeah.
yeah, it might be. No, I mean, we both.
Maybe just
It
maybe
might be
just to take credit,
maybe. It might
like
be the
counting
sun
coup.
and the alarming circumstances that lead us to have such wild speculations. I would have expected a world famous detective to look in the corpse's mouth. And I can't say I trust that fellow. But I will tell you in confidence that I'm a little irritated by tomorrow's excursion because I'm even more eager to get on to the Valley of the Kings because I've received a private correspondence that indicates that there's an exciting new discovery in the vicinity of Luxor that I'm invited to investigate.
Well, I
So
wonder if that's what our Greek is going
again,
for.
Ptolemy should know everything, but it isn't obvious to me that, I mean, this is, again, a private thing. Keeper, I assume that in addition to having the post-delivered newspapers come on board at the same time?
Yes, yes.
So I'd like,
They're a few days out of date, mind you.
sure.
Like often, if you're getting an English newspaper, it's going to be a week or two out of date. But yes, you will get local newspapers, and there will be one or two that you receive that are written in English. Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to look at what the most recent English language edition of whatever international press was available, just to see if there's any scuttlebutt that stands out.
I would say you can pour through the newspaper at your will through the meal. Nothing standing out about news relating to Egypt or smugglers or anything of that note.
Right. Names that we
Nothing
know.
world renowned or anything like that. But the doctor comes in for the meal at the same time as you and nods at you as he passes by to pick up his. He doesn't eat with the staff. He's sort of a brought on the ship, not an official staff member, but he's been contracted to work for them. Doesn't even wear like a ship's uniform now. Just wears his usual doctor dresses, much like you when you're working. So he's just grabbing his meal right now, and he just offers to have a meal with you. Doctor, do you mind if I join you for lunch?
Oh, not at all. We're more than welcome, Dr. Murray.
He sits, says a little prayer, and then proceeds to eat his food. Or begin to eat his food.
Dreadful business about the young fellow.
Oh, I just finished looking at the body.
Ah,
Do any of you have any background with these kinds of the crocodiles, these kinds of animals, natural
No.
zoology? I wouldn't think any of you would, but I will say that the one thing I found quite interesting at this, and I'm a family practitioner, but I do dabble in autopsies. As you note, I've done two in the last few days. But he says, interesting that the bite marks on the crocodile, from the crocodile, he grabbed the body, spun it in the water like that. By nature, they spin the bodies to drive the air out of the body so that they become limp and malleable to take them to their nests. I know that. We've known that since we were children. But this crocodile did that, and there were bite marks on the back of this body. And that's it. It didn't eat any of this poor boy.
yeah. Now, I did not think they'd bring up the knapsack and whatever he'd stolen, but I thought even less that they'd recover the body. A predator like that doesn't, unless the gunshots drove it off, which they didn't seem to bother it.
They're large creatures. They're very large creatures.
They're large creatures. Even a few gunshots might, like shooting a bear doesn't kill the bear right away.
No, and yeah, a fairly primitive but very powerful predator like that, once it's got the food in its mouth, it goes home and enjoys its meal at leisure. It's gone through the effort of killing, but instead it bit the back, which, because the knapsack had been pulled around to the front, the only way to separate the package from the victim or the sacrifice would be to chomp through the straps that were on the back and then carry the booty away instead of the food stuff. Does that description, as absurd as it sounds, fit with the observations you made?
It does. It does, in fact. But it's very bizarre. It's not something you would expect a primitive creature like a crocodile to think in that way. I assumed that it had been frightened by the gunshots, had taken a nip, and then went off to its nest.
No, it didn't. It didn't want the child, and the child didn't fear the water. The young fellow.
No.
Was there any chance he could have survived? Or it sounds like his injuries weren't that bad.
Oh, as I said, when the crocodile does the spin, they drive the air out of the lungs. They drown their victim, and then they pull them off to eat. So that once that happened, it's highly unlikely. I've never seen anyone survive that happen.
In addition to, if it's a creature like us with a long spindly neck and a small spinal column, if you don't drown or suffocate, you're likely to snap the neck.
Oh yes. Not likely to survive a crocodile attack like that. No, especially a crocodile that large.
And that was huge. Yeah.
You think maybe it could have attacked the boy and grabbed it from the wrong angle and caught the amphora in its mouth and simply found it too hard to chew? I mean, imagine they got to occasionally grab rocks anyway, accidentally. And
well, the funny thing about those long-snouted fellows is that their clamping muscles are incredibly strong. Their opening muscles are not very strong.
Yeah.
So it's not
Very
likely to
long.
get stuck on it. It's likely to crush it or let it go.
Hmm.
But we didn't, I mean, you were out there for quite a while in the baking sun, poking around, pulling up rocks and even little wooden bits. And you didn't get the rucksack either, which could have even floated up. Leather in water, if it's torn, will float.
Well, except for the fact that it's, yeah, if we saw, I didn't see any leather, but if it was filled with a, 20-pound rock, which is pretty much what the amphora would have been, it would have pretty much be on the bottom. And you are
Yeah.
right. It could have sunk into the mud, or it could have
Or wedged between two large stones so
or
that,
just right there, and we just kept going around it.
yeah, you can't, what the visibility in that water is an inch at best.
Nothing. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it was a sacrifice, and I pity that anonymous young fellow.
I wonder if, like, I mean, for him not to take it, maybe I think you're on to something. The crocodile had to hit something that it didn't like, like, so I think he probably did get that bag. The bag was obviously heavy. He was struggling with it quite a bit. So,
Yeah. And
It
there's,
almost sounds like
well, the most ridiculous idea would be that the crocodile was sent to get the bag. But
yeah, no, I don't think that. I think
I don't think crocodiles don't collect shiny things.
well, maybe not the crocodile, but have you ever heard of voodoo? I read in National Geographic once, but I don't think Egyptians do voodoo.
No, but
Well,
they're
you are
nameless.
technically in Africa.
True. The man crammed himself into a small hold, and then you said he looked incensed, jumped off the boat to kill himself as a sacrifice, but all to get away with the item. It's almost like someone controlled him to do so. With magic.
There are
Magic. Oh,
many. This country, of course, has become Islamic for the most part, but all the newer religions are marginal compared to the ancient beliefs that primitive people have in all the backwaters of the world. I wouldn't be at all surprised if this fellow didn't believe that, if not the god Sobek himself, some other thing was waiting for the treasure that he brought it. I don't think he threw himself in the water to escape, not weighted down as he was, not with the authorities immediately behind him, not without what I could tell a tremor of fear. I think he was just driven to go and bring his treasure to that creature, that oversized, maybe that crocodile's been worshipped in these lands for millennia, generations,
a
centuries.
martyr.
Do they sacrifice people to crocodiles often, these Sobekians?
mm.
Is drowning and being fed to crocodiles some sort of normal ritual sacrifice they participate in?
These people are almost entirely Muslims and or Coptic Christians.
Yeah.
You're not gonna
Officially.
find the old
Mhm.
officially.
Officially.
But something you said, Lady Wyndham. I mean, not magic, but I mean, Doc, what do you know about hypnotism?
The thought crossed my mind. I mean, and even the suggestion of hashish, while I think a little bit, in the basic police limited imagination sort of way, there are substances, as in voodoo, that can induce obedience in people, and these occult practices sometimes engage in that sort of tomfoolery or skullduggery. I don't think that the fellow who jumped off the boat was trying to make it to shore. I think he was trying to deliver the goods, if not to the crocodile, then to some accomplices perhaps I don't know to what extent crocodiles can be trained, but it certainly didn't take very long for that large amphibious reptile to locate the young lad. And again, the doctor agrees that the wounds suggest that he only wanted to take away the satchel. And the satchel is gone. Yes, I think something very untoward is going on, more than just smuggling.
The doctor agrees and nods and says, "This very, very interesting situation. A lot of things happening." And no, to answer your question, I don't believe that sacrifices were made to by the peoples of this region. I grew up, as I said, by the river, by the shore, and although we were knowledgeable of these ancient gods, if you will, we certainly weren't. There weren't people that were partaking in sacrifices and such that I was aware of growing up. But he says, "I must take my leave, though. I'm very sorry to take my leave. But if there's anything I can do to assist you or answer more questions, please feel free to contact me. But I must go see the captain because I have to make my report back."
Thank you. I hope I didn't upset your dinner very much with these questions.
Oh, he was eating throughout the whole thing. I mean, he didn't have a problem keeping the body in the freezer with the meat and vegetables. So he was just eating away. He's quite content. He doesn't bother him at all.
Have you had any other, before you run,
Of course,
you have a report to make, Mr. Langley's secret client is an elderly fellow. Have you been called in to see to his needs at all? Is he traveling comfortably as best you know? Or have you been kept away?
He gets a little looking around. He's really client, patient confidentiality. But as you are all assisting in the investigation, I have been in to see Mr. Thom. Yes, he is a very, very old man. Very old man. I'm quite surprised he's traveling in this mode. I would have thought that a more direct travel to his destination than on a ship like this. But yeah, I definitely have met with him and inspected him once during the travels. Perhaps twice I've seen him in passing. But
is he holding up well then?
He's a very old man. I'm actually, again, quite surprised he's traveling. He is holding up. I fear for his health as it comes to the weather and such and the heat. But he seems to be holding up quite well.
Best of luck to us all then. Good to see you.
Of course. Thank you. Yeah. Wanders off to find a captain and make his report back. The police are now, their boats are loaded up and they're heading off. They said that they've marked, you can see there's a red buoy that they've dropped in as the ship was leaving. You can see they dropped a red floating kind of thing with an anchor, so they know what area to search in future. And they will continue scouring the reeds and such and looking for the satchel. But they're free to go. So the detective has arrived. Mr. Langley's arrived again. He's having his food, but he's eating by himself at the bar, making some notes. Files nowhere to be seen. The meal, unless you guys wish you said anything else during the meal, it ends. And that's it for that part of the day's entertainment.
Yeah.
I was planning on when Langley gets up to leave, I was going to follow him from a distance to see where he went.
Okay.
Do you tell us about that, Tomlinson?
Yeah.
Because I want to give you a little folded note to offer Langley if he speaks to you directly, which is. It just says, Mr. Ptolemy, if you are going to visit Dr. Clark, I'll see you there.
Oh, okay.
Because I got the letter I got is from Dr. Clark, and that should put the wind up Langley, which is, I think, the least he deserves. But you don't have to. If you don't interact, then we'll just slip it under his door later or something.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you're going to follow him, you don't even have to roll for noticing this. He's a little bit shifty. He's like
Hmm.
taking back and forth, like wandering the ship in through one side of the bridge and then out the other door, sort of thing, just talking to people as he goes. And he does walk down. It's a pretty open ship. It's pretty hard, but could you do a stealth kind of
Oh yeah.
sneaky roll to make sure you're not seen?
04, which is that is an extreme.
You are like a ghost, and he
Yeah.
does not see you. He goes to Mr. Ptolemy's door, and he does like a knock, 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 pause, knock. So he does that knock, and then
Hmm.
he puts his key in the lock because he has a key to this door,
Oh.
unlocks it, goes in, shuts the door behind him. You aren't close enough to hear
Yeah.
whether he relatches it, but you assume he probably relatches it.
Yeah.
And he is now inside the room. And then you see Faisal come out of the room a minute or so later, and Faisal comes out and leaves and heads in the opposite direction to where you are.
I will. I'll follow him because I should have grabbed a stethoscope from Dr. Goff so I could have listened.
Okay. Excellent. So you're following Faisal. Faisal's heading
Yeah.
to the stern of the ship, the back end.
Hmm.
Um, for those of us who grew up around boats who can't remember what the bottom of a boat is called, the below decks. That's me. Can you roll a spot hidden?
Oh, okay.
I would call it a spot hidden roll for this, yes.
Ugh, God, 87. No,
You do not spot hidden. Okay.
no.
You do not spot hidden, but you do hear from the bow of the ship, not the bow, the stern, where Faisal's heading. You do hear a porter yelling. They go, look, look, look. And
Oh,
you sort of you're heading that way. You
yep.
head down, and they point, and in the distance you can see the shape of a what looks like an alligator, or alligator crocodile, following the ship and then diving down into the water.
Mm,
So there you go.
damn.
So there, Tom, we can call that if you like for the session.
Our players included Keith Craig, David Gasaway, Troy Wheeldryer, Dave Shefflett, and myself, with Sean Liddle as the keeper of arcane lore. We have a Discord server where you can chat with other members, you can set up private games, and you can learn the finer arts of gameplay and game mastering. We provide audio-only versions of our shows free for you to download from Spotify, Podbean, or iTunes. Support for the show is provided by our patrons who are listed in the closing credits. If you'd like to show us your appreciation, please visit our Patreon page, or you can use the thanks button just below the screen. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel and punch the bell icon for updates on our latest shows. And leave us some comments. We enjoy reading them and answer any questions you might have. This is Thom Raley, together with all the members of our gaming club, inviting you to journey with us once again into the darkness for another adventure into the universe of H.P. Lovecraft and the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. Until next time, good luck and good gaming.